Good morning, and here we are once again with the Iranian chaos. And I can go on and on about Iran, this and that, and geopolitical, but you know the nice thing is, I don't have to. The simple fact is, a chart like this says it all. We weren't going to allow this to happen. They wanted to elevate their missiles and protect themselves so they can go over and develop nuclear weapons to take out Israel and, you know, be terrorists and even maybe in the future attack the United States. Well, it's not happening. We took out the terrorist regime and we're going to keep taking them out until they are gone. And once they are gone, then the Iranian people, the real Persians, could take over. That's basically it. Not the Islamic terrorists. Their history. Goodbye, so long, go fuck yourselves. And on to the video. Now, on to brighter things. I'm showing you this chart on Bitcoin, and you can see where we are. I want you to notice one thing on this chart, and one thing only. There are no red dots, right? You need to have red dots in order to have a real pullback. We've not seen that. We have blue dots from the highs of the yellow dots. Yeah, no, that's not going to work. We need to have an up move, and if the charts that I see all come into effect, which they more than likely will in the coming months, we're going to get that move, and an elevation to that 500K range would be likely, according to the stock to flow model and what we're seeing. We don't have any red dots here. We need to see the red dots. So that's going to be what I'm looking for in the future. And you can see other charts like these over here. Now I can make my argument about all the things that are going on behind the scenes to point this out as what's coming in the future. But this is just the likelihood of what is likely to happen. And this kind of moves in alignment with what you see on the stock to flow chart of what I would expect. This pullback is just a retracement more than likely, and we're going to get the really big move in the coming months. And something to this effect, maybe not of the exact same ratios, but similarly within the range, you would expect us maybe to get down to the 50K range, or maybe not. Maybe the 60 was it. But we're going to be looking for these numbers going upward in the coming months, because that's what's on the chart. And it's going to get real interesting to the upside. So yeah, I'm bullish, even if short term maybe I'm not. I'm a little bit hedged more short and more long. So, those are just trades. As you'll see, here are some trades that I've made the past week, and I'm just trading the volatility. My real case is this, bullish, and that's why I'm a big fan of Metaplanet, because the upside there is going to be ridiculous. And maybe even in Bitcoin it might be ridiculous. And maybe with Metaplanet I don't get 5 or 10 times. Maybe I get 20 times. Maybe that's coming. So, Anyway, here's the video and enjoy. And I'm just showing you where I recently bought more silver, and I'm going to sell it up here. So when it hit the 678 range, I'm looking at trade it all the way back up to 86. So I'm doing another trade. I had 2 trades before, and I'll get another trade right here, anywhere in this range. But this is what I'm looking for. So I'm just trading the volatility, basically. I'm expecting prices to go back up at some point all the way to 101. So this makes sense in the short term. So yeah. So I bought it in the 78 range, and I'm going to trade it all the way back up to around 86. I don't mind holding. Maybe I'll even hold some of it in for the 101 target. But that's going to happen sooner or later. I mean, right now we're just going through geopolitical chaos. The markets are just jumping around, with the Iran war that we have, or whatever you want to call it, taking out the Iranian terrorist regime. So this is going to be interesting, but this is where it broke out from, and this makes sense to get long, and this is where it broke down from. So, looking for it to get up back to the 86 range makes perfect sense. So again, just trading the short-term moves. Yep. We'll see what happens later in the week. You can see on Bitcoin, I am selling it. I'm waiting for this to create. You can see the divergence that we have right here. Here, let me zoom into the chart so you can see it better. Let's move this over here. And this over there like that. Now you can see the divergence that I was looking for. Boom, there it is right from there. And we'll make this yellow. And it's gone all the way up. Anyway, target is clear. It's going to be all the way back to the 67K zone, the mid to low 67K. So I'm going to look for that from right here in the upper 73, 700 to 800 range. Anywhere around there is fine. But anyway, yeah, it's an easy trade. You can see the divergence. So I expect a spike down, maybe a spike back up, and ultimately to end over here and go from there. This was a previous zone, covered half of it over there at under 64K, and reacquired it now at 700 range, and we'll take it off right over here. So I've got another trade, and it's pretty much the same type of pattern as you guys know. I traded this one, and now this one. Rinse and repeat. And also, you know what I did with silver? Silver I'm a little bit worried about because of the fact that Jane Street has now been involved in it. And so they're switching from Bitcoin to silver. They don't want the heat from Bitcoin, so they're going into, so wherever these guys go, they're trouble. So downward price movement, I would not, I got to protect myself. I basically took this long here, sold it up here. So where do I go from here? Well, I'm going to be watching. Ultimately, I want to see us get up to here, but Jane Street's involved. That makes me apprehensive, to say the least. Coin, you can see where we are. We completed this last pattern. Now, I took more short from here because, honestly, with all the geopolitical stuff going on, it's worth the risk. I do not see us being able to break above the low 70K range for any length of time. As I pointed out in previous videos, I thought this area would become resistance, and it did. It pretty much went right from there. Now, I did get better pricing over here in the upper 73K range, which, whatever. Ultimately, I'm just trading the volatility. We're just range bound right now, and we've been, going up, down, and we're just range bound while the Iran war. This is actually very positive type of price action. I'm kind of surprised from what we've had here. I'm still keeping a decent percentage of my shorts. I did close out most of what I had from up here, right here in the low 67K range because it's a technical target. It makes sense, just like this one over here made sense. Now let's go back to silver because I want to show that as well. And you can see here I also had another buy over here. I'm more long on silver, more interested in getting long. So I'm kind of like doing the reverse with silver. These two I did have hedge sells. There I took half of the position just for the small ranges. This one I increased by 50% my longs, buying it down here at the trend line break, and then selling it right back up to here. Again, we're all range bound, so everything is range bound. This makes short-term trading more profitable, I guess you can say. Now, silver has a range bound with likelihood of breaking out to the upside is what I would look at, whereas Bitcoin is the reverse. Bitcoin is more likely to break to the downside, as you can tell. These are the key areas. But that's not even certain. I can't say that for sure. But, the ranges are definitely working out to my favor. Now, we've seen what happened with oil. It's gone absolutely ballistic. Increase, increase, increase. Everybody's freaked out right now. This is going to be very interesting because in the future, I'm going to more than likely wait for this to crash all the way back down to the $60 range. It's got to fill this gap and this gap here. So look at this long butterfly that it's created right here. So it's definitely going to be coming back to the $70 range once all of this clears out with Iran. And Trump is just doing, I hate to say this because I'm not a fan of his, but he's doing a fantastic job. All right? I don't like the guy, but he's doing a fantastic job taking out our enemies. Venezuela, Cuba is next. And Iran? He's taking out Iran? Oh, man. Yes, I'm ecstatic. There's no longer going to be a terrorist regime in control of that country. Do you know what that means? The upside is going to be absolutely nuts. It should be off the charts in the coming year. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. I mean, we've just totally wiped out the terrorist regime that's been going on for almost 50 years, 47 years, I think, gone. No more threat of nuclear weapons from them. And the Democrats are, they're upset. Well, that's fine. You enabled them. You want to enable Iran to have weapons against us? Go fuck yourselves. So that's the way I view that. I don't like the Republicans' position on Ukraine. I think that's retarded. I don't understand why right-wing leaders in Europe or in America are so supportive of Russians. The Russians are communists, just like the Chinese. They're a dictator, kleptocratic regime, just corrupt. Now, you've seen what happens to every regime, right? Cuba, Venezuela, their people suffer and they become economically poor because of the corrupt regimes. Iran's no different. That's why you had the protests in Iran. They basically are so corrupt, they can't stop themselves from destroying their own countries. So it's very easy for us to take over because, we benefit economically from their destruction, basically. There's the flip side of that. But anyway, so you've seen what happened with oil. We're all the way up here. We've had a big spike up. Now we're going to have to go over and create something from this point. I'd say maybe we get up to this 96 and maybe a little higher, create a divergence of some sort. But this is going to have to fall back. And it's going to have to go over and create something, and then for us to make the move all the way back down and close these gaps. We're only a little over a week into the war, and we've obliterated, it's looking like they're way ahead of schedule. So that's good in a sense. Now what I'm going to do is focus. This is going to be a longer video because I'm going to focus on silver and Zcash and to show you the ratios. I'm going to go into that like I said I would. But here's Metaplanet. You know what my thoughts are on this. We had a spike up to here. These spikes are pretty big on a percentage basis, and the reason why is because there are buyers in there. And they're letting it fall back, but they're going over and hitting the bigs. You can see the spikes are pretty big in size. The sell side volume has just been obliterated, all I can say. How we're not in the upper $2 range is beyond me, but we'll get there. I have no fear of that. Things in many different charts have become very bullish, even though you're currently dealing with some of the pullbacks that we've had, like in Bitcoin and others. It's still very bullish. All right. So you know where we stand with that. You know where my trades are. I'm just basically trading the ranges. Now I'm going to go over and go to the Zcash, and I'm going to show you the ranges and try to make the logic and how it compares to silver and how we could expect like-for-like price ranges in the future. Of course, they're going to be different because they're different assets, but they're going to be similar in the overall nature and how they work. And this is a great learning opportunity for those who want to see intelligent trades, because percentage-wise on these, I mean, I cleaned up. I don't have to tell you how well I did. You know, you've seen the videos in the past months and everything that I expected to have happen. You've seen me average into my shorts from this point all the way up to here, and then buy them back, and then short again, and then buy it down here, get long, and then exit up here. And then now, I recently bought when it went down to this level down here in a target. I bought underneath, averaged into it again long, and then sold it all the way up here. How can you do any better, right? Well, it's about as perfect as you can get for trades. They should teach this, and fund managers should grab my videos and charts. And anyway, so we saw the patterns that we've had here. I'm going to go back to the start of the history of Zcash, and I pointed out the butterflies. When you get patterns like this, this is the starting point. This is where you average into the trade, because you know that you have a defined target. So I get a butterfly, and at some point I'm very sure that they're going to return to the levels that I was looking for, because that's where your demand is going to be. Supply is going to be above here, and they can move the price as much as they want, and extremes, crazy amounts up to the $700 range for something that was just in the $40 range not a great time ago. So what can you do but laugh? Because the fair value on this is more in a range like this area here, not $700. That's just insane. But anyway, so we had the upper end of this butterfly, and this is what we're focused on, this structure right here. So I started shorting here, it kept going up, and I added and added and added and added, and then it drops all the way back down to this starting point. All right? Now I'm going to go to silver and show you that this is the same play. I did the same thing. Of course, the nature is different because the ranges are different, but it's the same structure. So let's go over and take a look at silver and see if I did the same exact thing. And I did. Now, we go over and look for where the starting structure is, and bam, where do we get the starting structure? All the way down here. And it goes all the way up to the 200% level. This is my starting structure right there, right around that 64. I pointed this out when I started to sell. And that was right around $64. And I said to myself, this is going to be the anchor point, just like you saw on Zcash. this is the same anchor point, right? For this trade right here. Anchor point, boom. Drops all the way to it, then goes all the way back up. Anchor point right here. Now, yes, your main target is down here, but this is your starting point to actually sell. Just like with silver, you go back up to here. This is your starting point to sell. And now I averaged into this. Now, this wasn't a very big position because of the fact that neither of them are really big, because I don't put big amounts of money into shorts. I'm sorry, it's not. I like it for technical reasons and for trading. It keeps me sharp, but I don't make big money off of shorts. I make big money off of longs, and the technicals from there. I want you to keep that in mind. But anyway, you do get paid, so it's worth it. And it keeps you sharp in understanding the price action and the developing ranges. So you can see this 64 point here, right? All right, so it goes all the way up to there. It drops back down, creates another W up here. This is very interesting. This shows additional strength in silver. It's being pushed hard. But it's not changed. This is still your anchor point. So when I was selling, and I kept going and going, and did anything change? No. This is still your anchor point. And just like with Zcash, where Zcash came all the way back down to its anchor point, when you look at it over here, when it came back down to here the first time, so that's what we're going off of. When it came back down to this anchor point right down here, it went all the way back up. That's great, but nothing changed. The ultimate target's down here off of the structure, but this is the anchor point. This is a starting point of where the shorts would start. Just like with silver, they would start right here at 64, around 64, and nothing has changed. You have your target ultimately down here. We can't predict how high it's going to go. It went from the 60s all the way up to 120. Now, most people would have, if they're over leveraged, would have gotten blown out. I don't over leverage, luckily. I don't get blown out. So it traded all the way up there. I started getting into being a buyer right over here. The position is much bigger on the buy side. As I've told you before in the past, when it drops all the way down to here, I buy everything. All my shorts are out. And because 64 is your support point, that's your anchor. Just like with Zcash. I want you to recognize that. Zcash did the same thing. Went down to this anchor point right down here, right? Before going all the way back up. Now you can see on silver, it's doing the same exact thing as it did there. Of course, the ranges are different, but it went over and went all the way down to its anchor point. Different chart, had a secondary pattern right here where it has, and these are multiple levels. I want you to think dimensionally think of like you're in different universes at the same time. You're multidimensional. That doesn't mean the shorts from all the way here to there don't stop existing. I can have both short positions open as well as long positions, and they're on opposite ends. They're separate trades. They're just different universes. They don't, conflict with each other because I'm looking for different things to have happen, and all of those things happened. Went down to the anchor point finally with this spike move that we had right there. So all the shorts were closed out, and I bought longs under here, and of course when they went up to here, I sold half the position, bought it here, sold half the position, bought it here. Went down to here, I increased the position by 50%, and then sold it up here. Very confident that we'll get back up to these levels, maybe even go over and retest this, just like we did in Zcash, right? Because Zcash did the same thing. Went down to the anchor point and then went all the way up to its highs, and then drops all the way down here. Now, this was opportunistic. I mean, I could tell that on a percentage range trade, totally different type of trade, that this was the support point. And short term, this was a very good buying opportunity. So I took advantage of that to trade up to here. It wasn't that big of a trade, but it has to have respect for the ranges that it did, because it went way too high. So it had strength in it. So I wasn't just going for target on the first row over here. But ultimately, we did get that target, didn't we? After it created this little inside butterfly, it broke down. So 1, 2, 3. It broke down all the way over here. And I've seen this happen before in other charts, going years back, about 20 years, I would imagine. I remember certain instruments, some of them being in the Forex, like the Swiss and the Swiss dollar. What was the other one? The franc back in the day. Wow, that's a long, long time ago. But anyway, there were different instruments that did like patterns, and I studied them a long time ago, and I remember those, the way the movement was, and on the time frames that I were trading it, it was pretty amazing. And this was like for like, so I remembered that, and when it went down here, it became very bullish, and like I said, I buy more on the long side. And when it went down to this range down here, I bought a decent amount, because to me, this trade right here is free money. And yeah, we went all the way back up to the 340s, or somewhere close to there. I remember getting out in the 333, exited there. Great trade, nothing to say. This whole range, I traded it very well. But it's so much like silver and what silver's doing. Just, it's different instruments, but like for like nature. So the anchor part, that happened already. We traded down to the anchor over here. Now we retraced all the way up to here. Now we're having upside bias. Like I was saying, this is more likely to be more positive, similar to the pattern over there. Let's say 1, 2, 3, yeah, so it would be an A, B, C, D pattern, 1, A, B, C, D. That would make sense for us to go over here and to make a bigger move next week. We'll see what happens with that. You can't predict, but I've traded this over here. I'm more on the long side. The last trade that I had here, I increased my position by one half of the size of my original long, from everything that I bought in this range here. I was trading 2 of them were shorts. This one I bought over here, as you saw in the beginning of the video. That's where I increased it by 50%. Exited that trade there. And the rest of it, which I'm 100% in the long, I'll go over and target this area up here, looking for the A, B, C, and D movement, which will create like a butterfly type of effect, right? Which that's the most logical. So that's what we're looking for right now. And I apologize if this is a long video, but this is educational. You can see what I'm looking for. Now, all right, now here's the alternative structure that I want to point out, because I have to look for certain gotchas. And I've traded so many of these ranges could we have a failure from this point here? So I want to point this one out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Could this be the ultimate high that we had right here? Not likely. And the reason being is because this has to trade. This area here, or even a retest up to here on that extreme high. The probabilities go way up when they don't trade. But where would you go over and have an exit if you didn't want to take the risk? Let's say you're using leverage. More than likely, if you were using leverage, you would have to use this point right here as your trailing stop. Okay, so I'm giving you the alternative. If you were using leverage, your trailing stop would be right here, which kind of makes you a target. I don't like to think about that, but that's a possibility based off of this. Now, from this, I'm counting this area here as what I would say is the probabilities of us going higher. We'll see what happens next week. Again, I can't predict, what is likely, but this pattern right here exists, and the likelihood of us going up here is very high based off of that extreme high that we've had here. Not for certain, because nothing is for certain, and this is a possibility that we've had this movement right here from 1, 2, 3, all the way up to here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's your retracement. End of story. Would be best if I got out of all these trades and would stop looking for the longs. Possible. And if we go all the way, we start to break all the way back down, then I might change my how I would trade this. But that's not going to happen yet. I'm not worried about it. But I have to look at that as one of the options right here. Now, the other one is this right here. All right, let's take these lines. I don't have to recreate them. And look for this to trade something more like this. I can't predict what it's going to do. I could go all the way up to here. It can just go up to here instead, and that would be your full cycle. That would actually create a 5-wave. Looking at this, so you see that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And I can't predict where it's going to go. It can go up to here and stop right in this area right here, because if you look at that right there, resistance all the way across would complete the pattern that you have inside right here for this target. But it could keep going up. It can get all the way back up to here, and that's a possibility right there. But ultimately, prices would be coming back down, and the next time around, the likelihood that we would get a bigger drop to here would come into play. So that's the possibilities right there. So you've seen what I'm looking for, the ratios and how they repeat, and the price action is not the same. Nothing is going to be exactly the same. You have randomness and chaos and everything. So that changes the tempo, but you get certain elements that repeat themselves, like the butterfly patterns and the anchors for the trades and how they act as support. So that's a good learning. That's something that teaches you, and that is very useful, I would say. All right, so I've got the longs on silver, positive there. I've got the shorts on Bitcoin. And if we go back there, you know what I'm looking for. We could break back down to the 64K area. If we do, I have nothing to do but to hold the shorts that I did not take. The one that I took over here, I increased the size on. But I'm still holding the shorts from here to there, just like I said weeks ago, because I have to hedge from all the Bitcoin that I have underneath, and that 58K, it's still there. It still exists. But let me tell you, once the war with Iran is over and we're done with that, the upside is going to be extreme. And I do mean extreme. The institutions are buying. I could see them buying. It's a different ballgame. I don't know why the retail traders are selling, but good. They're just exchanging the money from one to the other. And that's just the way it is. Silver, you know what my plan is there. I'm still positive, looking for that 101 and above area up here. And you know that we have high gas prices right now. That's a negative on the markets. But we're not going to have a terrorist regime threatening us with nukes who were looking to irradiate all of Israel, basically put. And yeah, they're done. They're history. I want you to think about that. These communist regimes and these dictatorships that were part of the Russian-China evil axis are gone. All right, that's going to have huge ramifications. And Trump's done a great job. I hate to say that. Not a fan of his. But you know what? When you do a good job, you don't go over and knock a person, even if you don't agree with them, when they do something right. That's just playing politics like the Democrats do. And unfortunately, they're idiots. And I don't like these wokeisms. We've got people like the UK and Spain and France. These people who have existed off of our yoke, they exist because of us. They could have all been speaking Russian, basically, back in the day. They could have been taken over if we just would have hit the road and not protect them. Man. And then they come over here with their importing all these immigrants into their countries, destroying Europe. And I pointed this out again and again. What I'm seeing is not good, and there's going to be some. Yeah, it's not going to look good for Europe. I feel sorry for you if you live there. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. This has been the update. You've seen the technical ranges. I hope you keep that in mind, and I hope you've enjoyed this update. And I will see you in the next one.